other than baby oil. If I would give it a wild guess, it was, and like some of the people told me, it was probably that GHB.
Were Sean Combs' bottles of baby oil potentially laced with a date rape drug? Recent lawsuits against the disgraced rapper raise alarming questions about this disturbing possibility. And during the raids on his properties earlier this year, authorities reportedly seized over 1,000 bottles of baby oil, leaving many to wonder, why did he even have that many bottles in the first place? Well, we're going to explore these serious allegations and their implications for Sean Combs' legal future, all with former CIA and FBI agent Tracy Walder. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
Yo, what's poppin', Rick Mill fam? Y'all know what time it is. You want that almond flavor? You want that baby oil? You want that baby oil? Y'all know what time it is, man. Yo, these allegations are just getting crazy. P. Diddy out here lacing baby oil. Doing the rub downs, you getting laced up. We about to dive in, get some more information. Go ahead and watch this video all the way through. It should be very entertaining for y'all. And shout out to everybody that's brand new and welcome into the Rip Mill family. I appreciate the love and support so much, man. Let's go ahead and lock in and see what's going on with Diddy today, man. Let's go.
Fed seized in March in the Sean Diddy Combs sex crimes case. This is a key piece of physical evidence that could maybe be quite important to prove that Combs directed, that he participated in these elaborate coerced sexual performances known as freak-offs, where he would allegedly force women to have sex with male sex workers, that he allegedly secretly recorded these sessions. Again, having all this baby oil was probably a key piece of evidence. And remember, the freak-offs are a key component of the sex trafficking and racketeering case. And if you remember, when it came to this specific piece of evidence, Combs' lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, did kind of give an explanation for this when he spoke to TMZ after the indictment. Reminder, this is before the gag order was imposed. And he said, quote, "He has a big house. He buys in bulk. I think they have Costco's in every place where he has a home. Have you sat in the parking lot of a Costco and see what people walk out of there with?" So he attempted to kind of shrug it off, but the thing about that is Costco apparently doesn't actually sell bulk packages of baby oil. Who knew, right? As a matter of fact, they reportedly don't even sell baby oil. At least that's what a Costco spokesperson confirmed to TMZ. And look, if you're curious, you can go ahead, you can search baby oil on Costco's website. They got diapers, they got wipes, they got milk. Apparently no baby oil. So that explanation didn't do a whole lot to curb speculation about all this. And now we have seen a series of new lawsuits that were just filed, including yesterday, that are raising more questions. All these new lawsuits are being filed by Tony Busby, this Texas attorney. And what's really disturbing about it, and we believe more are coming down the pike, is that several of these are from people who claim they were minors when they were sexually assaulted by Sean Combs. And at least one says that they were drugged by Sean Combs. And what's even more shocking about this is there are actually other celebrities listed in these lawsuits that are being accused of participating, though to be clear, they're not identified by name, so we don't know who these people are. But I'll give you an example. In a lawsuit filed by one Jane Doe, she states that she was 13 in 2000 when she was invited by a limo driver to attend the MTV Video Music Awards after party that was thrown by Combs in New York. And after consuming a beverage, her complaint says that she felt drowsy. She looked for a place to lie down. And that's when she says Combs, who was joined by an unnamed male celebrity and an unnamed female celebrity, came into the bedroom where she was resting. And she says that this unnamed male celebrity sexually assaulted her. Combs, this unnamed female celebrity, watched. And then Combs proceeded to rape her as the other two celebrities watched. And by the way, when you talk about all these lawsuits, in the intro of all of these complaints, you can find shocking claims about the baby oil. The claim reads, quote, "Combs particularly fancied the use of the popular date rape drug rohypnol, or GHB, to commit heinous non-consensual acts of sexual violence and rape against countless victims." And it goes on further to say, there are also allegations of Combs dousing victims in lotions or similar body oils, also laced with GHB, so that the drug would be absorbed through the victim's skin and make it easier to assault him or her. Now, it's important to know that this complaint uses these terms interchangeably, rohypnol and GHB. However, they're actually two separate drugs that fall into the category of club drugs or date rape drugs. And we've been telling you about Tony Busby, how he brought all these new lawsuits, including from last week. And they're all claiming, these people, that they were sexually assaulted by Combs between 1995, now 2022. These complaints address the alleged drugging and baby oil as well. Now, you also have one other woman who came forward in July. She sued Combs for sexual assault, and her attorney, Ariel Mitchell-Kidd, told News Nation that Combs had squirted some kind of lubricant or oil onto her client, which she said made her become limp. Mitchell-Kidd said, quote, she felt that whatever the liquid was being squirted on her had something in it which essentially debilitated her and her faculties. Now, it's important to note that the accuser didn't mention baby oil in her official complaint, but baby oil did come up in the November 2023 lawsuit of Cassandra Ventura, Combs' ex-girlfriend. That lawsuit started everything. You can see there that on your screen where she alleged Mr. Combs' assistants would help to set up the FOs, including by setting up the hotel suites with baby oil and Astroglide. Astroglide is a type of lubricant. She also said further down, during the FOs, Combs would instruct Miss Ventura to pour excessive amounts of oil over herself, but in that lawsuit didn't necessarily say that those oils were laced with drugs. But then you have Combs' former bodyguard, Gene Deal, who we showed you right at the top of the show. He's been very vocal talking about Combs, where he revealed the potential for the oil to have been laced with GHB. According to the DA's official website, GHB is a Schedule I controlled substance. It's produced illegally in laboratories. It became popular in the 90s for its powerful euphoric effects, but it also increases libido, suggestibility, passivity, even can cause amnesia. So I want to talk a little bit more about these very, very shocking allegations of drugs and baby oil. And to do that, I want to bring in special guest, former FBI and CIA agent Tracy Walder, to talk more about this. Tracy's also a News Nation contributor. And Tracy, thank you so much for coming on. When it was first announced that the feds had seized all of this baby oil, one of the more shocking allegations in the indictment, what was the first thing that came to your mind?
Well, thanks for having me, Jesse. The first thing that came to my mind was that they were taking it to test it, clearly. If they saw something in that large of a quantity, it's one thing to find maybe one bottle. I'm not certain that that would have been seized, obviously, in that search that they served on both of his homes. But when they saw it in that large of a quantity, I think that they probably suspected that it was being used for more than just a lubricant. And that has probably since been tested. That's my best guess.
Let's talk about that, because if it's suspected that this oil is laced with very powerful drugs, or maybe, by the way, maybe it's not even baby oil at all, are there ways to test it? What are the ways to test what's in there?
Well, first you have to think about collecting it, right? And so my best guess, again, I wasn't inside the houses when these raids took place. However, I have been in homes where we are seizing things that could possibly have drugs in.
Seriously, man, did y'all think that we ever get to the point that they're gonna be testing baby oil in this case? They're literally stating that they want to test baby oil. That's where we're at right now. That's what's going on. Yo, let's lock in, man. This is getting crazy, man. This case is just getting crazy, man. Diddy was on the next level of from Freaky Dakey. That's Freaky Diddy. That's his name, Freaky Diddy.
Them. My guess is that they probably wore, obviously, the biohazard suits, biohazard gloves, those kinds of things, the same things I wore when I went to trash cans and things like that, simply because you don't want that having contact with your skin as well. Just like it absorbed into other people, it can absorb into you. So the first thing they had to do was, obviously, from a forensic perspective, be very careful as to how they were collecting it. And then next, they would probably send it to the FBI or DHS. I don't know who took custody of it. Again, I'd have to look at a chain of custody form, but to one of their labs. And that testing actually could be done very, very quickly. There's actually test strips that you can do in field to test things for GHB or the roofie drug.
And when you think of somebody, someone's given a date rape drug in their drink, that's one thing. You think of it being ingested, but putting it in baby oil, having it absorbed through the skin. Have you ever seen anything like that? And that methodology, if that's true, if these allegations are true, what does that tell you?
So that's an interesting question. And the analogy I'm going to make, I don't know what people will think about it. So I actually have seen something like that before. And where I saw it, to be completely transparent, was with terrorist groups using it. They
Mm.
were trying to obtain control over I can't say the name, but a very popular lotion and oil distributor to place a toxin within it to then have that redistributed out into the American population. And that
Yo, did y'all hear that? That's a next level of bioterrorism. They want to put substances inside our lotion, and she won't say the name of the company that they was trying to buy. What is going on in the U.S., man? Like they serious right now? That's how they trying to come at us. That's different than guerrilla warfare. That's another level.
that absorbs through the skin. My biggest concern is when something like that happens, absorbing through the skin, that's your body's largest organ. And you're absorbing it in a larger quantity than you are probably ingesting it. I am shocked that no one died, to be honest with you, as a result of this exposure, because yes, it is known as the state rape drug, but it can also be lethal in massive quantities. And this is just very, very disturbing. I'll be surprised if I will not be surprised, excuse me, if they start adding assault charges as well, if that's what's in this baby oil.
Is it tough to add it? I mean, I don't know if that's a elementary question, but to add that mixture to baby oil, what goes through that? Do you need a laboratory to do it?
Not at all. You might need a laboratory depending on where you're obtaining the GHB or the roofie drug from. It can actually be made in a home laboratory. That's what's difficult, right, about tracking this. But obviously, you can obtain it as well because it is used for medicinal purposes. It affects, the nervous system, and so there are legitimate reasons, right, that people would use this. And so it really just depends on how it was obtained. How it being added into the baby oil is very easy and no different than adding it into someone's cocktail at a party.
See, that's the thing. Part of it, what I was looking at it is, if someone feels drugged after having a drink, we know so many examples before, you can make an argument that they were drugged. There's a part of this where the first thing I thought is it's a way to avoid detection, right? So there might be
Mhm.
signs about what happens to the person, but who would think that it was the baby oil that might have been contaminated?
I actually completely agree with you. Obviously, someone like myself who has actually investigated this when I worked Al Qaeda, I might think that it had been absorbed through the skin. But I think people that maybe didn't have that kind of experience, and I don't mean that in a bad way, the general population wouldn't necessarily assume, right, that had been added into the baby oil. And you're absolutely right. Kind of in the late 90s, right, early 2000s was when a lot of education was coming out about liquid ecstasy, which is another name for all of this, and people, guarding their drinks, making sure your drink doesn't leave your sight. There was a lot of education coming out through the media, about really being careful in terms of your drink. And so I think a lot of people may have gone to these freak offs and chosen not to drink at them for that very reason and were drugged another way.
And at very high doses, this can cause seizures, unconsciousness, slowed heart rate, greatly slowed breathing, lower body temperature, vomiting, nausea, coma, death, like you said. That's my understanding about what the effects of. But this is clearly nothing anybody wants to touch. But I do want to focus on the idea of amnesia, right? Because if this stuff can really cause memory loss while under the influence, maybe that explains why many of these alleged victims are coming forward, years after the fact. Maybe they're going to have trouble remembering what happened to them. That could actually work for the defense's favor, right? If you're questioning the credibility of these witnesses and saying, how can you accurately recall what happened to you if you really were under the influence of these drugs? But talk to me about that aspect, the amnesia aspect, Tracy.
Right. So it's not actually a question of can it cause amnesia. It does cause amnesia. We have seen it, unfortunately, in cases. I agree with you that I do think the defense would use that to their advantage, which is obviously disturbing and gross, to be completely honest with you. I do think that it could explain why some of the victims did wait a while. But I think we have to compound that with the fact that, I mean, look at how Cassie Ventura was treated initially before the video came out. She was not treated well, which was horrific, right? People didn't believe her and were calling her all kinds of very, really disturbing names. And I think that a lot of these individuals were very, very scared, coupled with the potential holes in their memories. I think really was a recipe for them really not feeling comfortable and coming forward. And now a situation has been laid out. First of all, their accuser is currently behind bars, so that is an extra sense of safety for them. But also, it seems to be more widely accepted that we believe them. And I think that's giving people the confidence to come forward.
Talk to me about what you think the defense is going to be with that, right? Because there's one thing to say on the first week of his client being arrested that I shopped some bulk at Costco, and maybe that wasn't the most well thought out response. But, you know, obviously there's going to be a gag order imposed, so he's not going to be able to clarify a lot of these remarks. But I think the other way of saying it is they might cop up to it and say, you know, listen, yeah, he did have 1,000 bottles of baby oil. He was engaged in freak offs. We're not saying they were laced with any kind of drugs, but yeah, these were consensual parties. These were consensual events. Of course, we had the baby oil. That's what it was about. Because I don't know how you explain away having so much of that product.
I agree with you, and I think he's actually already discussed that prior to the gag order. I do recall, and I could be incorrect, but I do recall reading that his attorney was sort of making the case that everyone was there on a consensual
Correct.
basis.
Yep.
I recall that, and so I think now this actually potentially bodes well for the prosecution, because what the prosecution can now say, if these test positive for Rohypnol or for GHB, they can say that no, this was not consensual. You drugged these individuals. You can
Yo, if they come back and they say not only was he messing with kids that were young, 16, 15, younger, not only did he have these 1,000 bottles of baby, but they all laced and nobody ain't know that they was getting rubbed down with laced substances? You mean to tell me you was at a Diddy party and you was getting freaked off and you ain't even know you was at the freak off? How you at the freak off and not know you at the freak off? Like you getting rubbed down, feeling good, because you know you seen that big behind bed that Diddy had. Diddy had that huge bed. You know they was out there giving massages on that big bed with the freak off, man. This is crazy. This is crazy, man. Let's lock in.
explain away the baby oil bought in bulk. And I agree. I'm very surprised that an attorney for someone of Diddy's stature would even bring up Costco, to be completely honest with you. I was very surprised by that, because it's not a good excuse and it's very easy to disprove that. But I think he's going to have a really hard time now using that everyone was there under their own free will sort of defense, because the feeling that I got from him was that they were going to acknowledge that these occurred, but everyone was there consensually.
Look, to be clear, it's another disturbing allegation in an already disturbing case. Obviously, we know these are just several of the lawsuits that Tony Busby has planned to file. We do not know the other people, the other allegations, the other celebrities that may or may not be named. We do not know the other instances of baby oil that may or may not be used. But this is just another kind of interesting caveat with this. And I don't know. It's not something that I initially thought about when this.
I'm saying he don't know. I don't know either, man. Like this case is just gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy. When Cat Williams said, "Hey, 2024 is that year for all the big dick deviants and all them people," he said it's the other side and it's God's side, and he was not playing, boy. He done called it down. So shout out to, if you made it to this point of the video, you're a true supporter. I appreciate you so much. You have no idea, man. This YouTube journey, it's been amazing, man. We coming up little by little. Shout out to all the new followers that's been joining in, watching it on the channel. Appreciate the love and support. Go ahead and drop a comment below. Subscribe. And I'm gonna go ahead and do my part and just go ahead and respond back to y'all because I'm trying to get caught up with all these comments, man. But I appreciate the love, man. And y'all be easy, man. God bless y'all, man. Y'all take care. Stay safe.